It's not coincidence that we have 7 energy centers in our body. It's how nature evolved. We have 7 colors of light, 7 families of subatomic particles, 7 families of materials in the periodic system. This pattern is like a blueprint of God, of a creator, or whatever you call it. If we don't embrace this kind of technology, other people will do it, and they will do it with bad intentions. Governments, for example, are created to maintain control. And if we start to switch that to a more heart-based society, then we will see a huge shift, I think, in society.
Welcome to today's episode of the Awake Origins Experience. This is not just another conversation. It's a deep dive into the future of humanity and the systems that shape our world. Last year I sat down with futurist Christian Kromme at the Awake Origins gathering of the tribe. Together we explored the profound shifts happening in consciousness, technology and society. These next 30 minutes might just change the way you see everything.
We are living in very exciting times, I think, but also scary times. It's very important which intention we put into technology. And I think if we start to use technology to unite people, then we really start to make progress. Transcend your personal ego and that you collaborate in something much bigger than yourself.
But someone who I always have enjoyed talking to a lot and whom I really respect the way he looks at things, very down to earth, at the same time very intuitive. It's Christian Kromme. Or maybe you know Christian, I think, or from these days, or you know him as a futurist, entrepreneur. He's very deep into tech, but at the same time highly intuitive. His dreams tell him things, and for me it's always very inspiring to hear his vision. And not that his vision has to be reality, but we wanted to start this day as just as an ignition in your consciousness, in what can be happening and what is needed to get there. So maybe you resonate with it, maybe you don't. Doesn't really matter. It's just an example or an example of what could be happening, and maybe it can inspire something within you. Christian, can I invite you to here sit next to me?
Yes.
Thank you for you willing to do this. How would you describe yourself?
After this weekend, as a grounded futurist, present futurist. No, I'm just a guy who does things that I really love. I was an entrepreneur. Creating new things was a thing that I really liked, so I did it a lot. And since in my private life happened some things, I shifted my focus towards different things, and that's inspiring people. So I see myself as a guide or inspirator, helping people to see the future more clearly, to take away the fear and to replace that with curiosity. What can it be? What can my role in this process be? And that's the thing that I really like the most, to inspire people and to help people to shift perspective, to see the things from a different perspective.
What I see you doing is, on the one hand side, you're going deep into topics, so you really research, and on the other hand side, you use your intuition. Is that the correct way of seeing it? How do you look at it yourself?
Intuition comes first, and then I do the research. So intuition gives me the frame, the guidelines. I see the global picture, and then I start to look into research and stuff to make a foundation for that. So I'm highly intuitive. I see things, I feel things. As a child, I already had that. My father is an anthroposoph. I don't know how to say it in English, but so he stimulated that to draw things, to make it tangible. And that's the way I do it. So I feel, and then I use my head to make sense of it in that order.
In the last few years, while you're an author, you're speaking all across the world in very different settings, corporate settings. What makes it that they can relate to you? Why are you understandable to them?
Well, I at first I'm a dyslexic person, so I have an issue with language. So I use images. I use images from nature and structures from nature and principles from nature, and everyone can relate to nature in some way or the other. We are nature, our body is nature, we are biology. And by using biology, you have some kind of safe space where people can relate to, independent from culture or religion. And that's why I use it. And it's very effective because nature is here already for billions of years, solved already all the problems that we still have as humanity. So by looking at how nature solves it, people say, oh, well, that's natural. And yeah, that's why it's called nature. It's natural. And that's why I use it. And it's very highly effective because it's a neutral thing for people.
So, talking about this, you've been writing and speaking about the 7 waves, which originates also in nature. Maybe some of you heard about this, but can you, in a very shortly, describe what these 7 waves in evolution look like?
Yeah, basically what I discovered when my daughter was very ill a couple of years ago, about 13 years ago, and in the search to save her life, I started to see the human body from a different perspective. I started to see it as a community, a society of trillions of cells that work together in harmony as one big organism. And when I started to look at the body in this way, I started to question myself, wow, if these cells have built a complex society of trillions of cells, which really is much more advanced than the society that we have at this moment, what can we learn from them? So I started to study those cells, those building blocks of our body. And I started to look how they evolved or emerged from single-celled organisms to the society that we are today, that we call our body. And I noticed that there are 7 big disruptive waves. And each wave, those tiny cells used biological systems to build more advanced organisms. And these organisms emerged from a certain complexity. And I've distinguished 7 different waves. And in all kinds of religions, that number comes back, of course, in the Bible, 7 days, etc. And what I found out is that the first wave is all about interaction. Cells started to communicate with each other. They started to build stone-like structures. It's coral, it's the prototype of our bones, same structure. And this helped them to extract food from the environment, and therefore they can grow faster and they survive better. But at a certain point, they became so big they needed some kind of infrastructure to get the right food and stuff inside. So they started, the second wave is about infrastructure. They started to build digestive systems and vascular systems that transformed the raw materials from the outside world into food and nutrition for the inside world. And those are basically your intestines and your vascular systems, or worm-like organisms, which are the prototypes of our intestines. But this resulted in very large organisms, so they needed some kind of information infrastructure. So they developed nervous systems, the spinal cord, eyes and ears to make sense of the world around, to adapt to that world. And this resulted over time in larger organisms, and they needed some kind of automation because there was so much information going over these nervous systems. They needed some kind of automation. So they developed the reptile brain, which is the brain stem. We still have it. If you wake up in the morning, everything in your body is fully automated, so you don't have to focus on that. You can grab your coffee, have a talk with someone, but the inside is fully automated. Well, this resulted in very large static organisms, dinosaurs, and so there was a need for some feeling, emotion. So then came the next invention. That was the limbic brain, or the social brain, the mammal brain, which helped organisms to become social, learn from each other, learn how to hunt, learn how to gather food, but also learn from each other and start to live in groups, in herdles and swarms. But this resulted in very emotional organisms that can only go left or right, so we needed some kind of rationality. And then nature developed the next layer of our body, and that was the neocortex brain, which helps us to learn and adapt in real time. That's why we can stand up on 2 legs, keep balance, develop tools, make fire, these kind of things. And the 7th wave, the last biological wave, was basically the latest brain that we have is the prefrontal cortex. It's in front of your skull. And it helps us to develop language, to communicate with each other, to have social, empathic behavior, but also to envision things which are not yet there. So if you have slept a week in the rain, you can envision some kind of building, and you can build it, you can manifest it. And that was a very powerful tool. So these are the 7 waves which basically structured our body. It's not coincidence that we have 7 energy centers in our body. It's how nature evolved. And what I saw is that this pattern is repeating today. But now it's not cells using biological systems to build organisms. It's Homo sapiens, human beings, that use technological systems to build organizations. So in my opinion, that the most intelligent, the largest entities on Earth are not humans anymore. Those are organizations. Organizations are living entities, and they become smarter. Because if you look at those 7 waves in technology, then we go to exactly the same themes. It all starts with interaction. The prefrontal cortex helped us to develop language. Therefore, we can share concepts like agriculture and stuff. And that was the first technological wave, agricultural wave. We started to build stone-like structures, cities that keep us safe from the environment. We start to extract food from the environment using agriculture, having cattle. And therefore, our communities were growing faster and faster. And we encountered the next problem, which was an infrastructural problem, just like with biology. But now we didn't develop digestive systems and vascular systems, but large industry. So the second wave, technology wave, was the Industrial Revolution. We built large industries that converted raw materials from the outside world into food and nutrition for the inside world. We built a vascular system, the oil pipelines, the water pipelines, all these kind of things to bring the right stuff to the right people at the right time within the community. This resulted in even larger structures, and we were more widespread over the world, and we needed some kind of connection, information structure. So the third big technology wave was about information, not about nervous systems and eyes and ears, but it's about telecom technology, the telegraph, the radio, television. We started to build sensors like cameras to make television possible, microphones to make telephone and radio possible, and therefore we were more connected with each other. Well, the next problem occurred. There was so much information going over these nervous or telecom systems. We needed some kind of automation. So there we saw the automation revolution. And I'm not talking about the reptile brain, but about automation technology. Companies like IBM started to build computers, microchips, operating systems, software to automate all the internal processes in organizations. So organizations could start to focus on the customer support, marketing, sales, all these kind of things. But this resulted in very large, static, rigid organizations, dinosaur-like organizations. So we needed some kind of emotion. And then we moved into the wave that we all experienced, I think, very consciously, which is the internet wave, the social media wave, which responds or corresponds to the limbic brain, the social brain. And this helped organizations to learn from other organizations using big data, analytics tools, learn from their customers, learn from the target audiences, and learn from the competitors, so they can increase or improve their skill sets. And now we are moving into the 6th wave. We are already in the 6th wave. And that's correlating with the neocortex brain in biology, but now we're talking about AI in the cloud. So deep neural networks, the machines that can recognize advanced patterns like language, like images and all these things. And after this wave, I think in 3-4 years, we will enter the 7th wave of technology, which is equivalent of the prefrontal cortex, which helps us to envision things. So I'm thinking about holographic technology. So today the internet is a flat screen on your tablet or your phone or your laptop. And imagine if the internet is a layer on top of reality and you cannot distinguish what is real and what is digital anymore. Well, this will happen in the next 10 years, everything what I'm talking about. So we're living in really exciting times, I think, but also scary times, because technology is neutral, but you can use it both good or for bad. So it's very important which intention we put into technology. And that's why I do the work that I do. I hope to inspire people. You start to use technology in a natural way. And the purpose of biology is to connect cells and to empower cells, to put them in the center of their ecosystem. And I think if we start to use technology for that same purpose, to unite people and to put people in the center of their own ecosystem, then we really start to make progress. So this is basically the wave pattern that I discovered. And this wave pattern is not only a parallel between biology and technology, it's happening on every level, every building block of the universe. So we have 7 colors of light. We have 7 families of subatomic particles. We have 7 families of materials in the periodic system. We have atoms, helium and hydrogen with 1 electron. and very heavy metals with 7 electron shells. So this pattern is like a blueprint of God, of a creator, or whatever you call it, source. And it's very consistent on every level. And that's why I use it to predict what's next, not on a detail level, but more on an outline level. And it can tell you perfectly, or ideally, it can tell you what the impact will be on society, on systems, but also on individuals and human beings. And that's, I think, the part that I'm excited about.
Like when you involve here the evolution in consciousness that's happening, what does that mean? So you shared with me before that in a few years from now, you had the first heartbeat of humanity in which over 1 billion people start to have a resonance with each other. Can you share a little bit about that and how this relates to the other waves?
Yeah, I believe just like in biology, each wave creates a new level of consciousness. So the first single-celled organisms were not quite conscious. But halfway the 7 waves, we got an executive-like consciousness. So dinosaurs were very executive. And finally humans had a social empathic consciousness. So each new biological layer helped us to develop a certain level of consciousness. And I believe that today we see exactly the same, but then on a society level. So we develop a new technology. The technology creates problems that we have never thought about. And then we have to raise our consciousness to lever ourselves to solve those problems. And that's what we see today happening, of course, with AI. So we've developed a technology with huge potential, really huge. But it has also a very dark side. So you can use it for very bad things. And it creates all kinds of problems, just like social media created all kinds of problems. And it forces us humans to raise our consciousness, to think on a different level, to deal with those problems. So I think technology is just like a mirror. It challenges us to grow, to evolve in consciousness and to solve those problems. And that's not always a nice process because it's getting us out of our comfort zone. But it's happening each wave. It's happening again and again. So it's challenging us to get higher, to evolve ourselves.
So in our own undercurrent, we're creating our own problems to raise our awareness level, which is, you could say, the game of life. And in this state of where we are as humankind, we use technology to create those problems.
Well, I think most of the technologies are developed from a negative perspective. So most technologies are developed in the defense industry, for example. It started with iron. They made swords with it, or sickles to make food. Same thing with machines. So you can make a tractor or a tank. And with every technology, it's first developed to have some kind of competitive advantage on a nation state level. And later on it becomes cheaper, it becomes a commodity, and then it's used by the ecosystem, by the people. And then it's used for nice things which are good for the humanity. And that's, I think, what's happening. So we develop it to have some kind of advantage. Then technology becomes more advanced, becomes cheaper, becomes a commodity. Everyone starts to use it, and then it's being used for good things. So I think and each wave is like an S-curve. In the beginning, things are going really slow. The development took years. For example, AI already exists in the 1980s. So it took very long, and at a certain time it goes exponential, and then it matures, and then a new wave builds on top of that. And each wave in the beginning of the S-curve is used for negative things, to control, to manipulate people. But when it becomes cheap, and in the second part of the curve, it's often used to do great things, to make humanity a nicer place to be. So I'm very hopeful that when the waves are getting shorter, the time when bad things can happen also becomes shorter. For your imagination, the internet took 20 years from childhood to a mature platform. And in that 20 years, almost everything that we do changed. We can almost not imagine a world anymore without the internet. So we buy stuff, we collaborate via the internet. The AI wave, which we are currently in, only take 10 years, but will have twice the impact of the whole internet. So the AI wave is massively disruptive on many levels. So yeah, it can be used for good things, but it can be used for bad things as well. And that's, I think, why we should inspire people to use it in line with source, in line with creation. And that's about unity, about resonance, about these kind of things.
So we as individuals, as the collective, we always have a choice. We can go anywhere where we would like. So later on, let's talk a little bit more about a bright future. When you would go down the road of, let's say, a more negative future, what would that look like if we do take, let's say, the wrong choices?
Well, if we stay inactive and if we as society don't embrace technology, certain people will. And they will use it to gain more power, more control of society. If you think about governments, for example, governments are created to maintain stability, to create control. And that's what they will do until the end. And now they get simple, more powerful tools to do that. So if we don't embrace this kind of technology, other people will do it, and they will do it with bad intentions or not so good intentions. So I think it's important that we as a community start to use it and start to create bottom-up movements and that embrace the technology. Bitcoin is, for example, a nice technology. That's an example of that. It's by and for the people. No control from top-down structures anymore. It's a decentralized solution. And I believe that all technology will go there as well. So today we have all the technologies that we have are a reflection of all the institutions that we have, which are all hierarchical systems, centralized systems. And I believe those centralized systems are the cause of, I think, perhaps 90-95% of all the issues that we have in our world: inequality, fraud, all these things, wars. And if we solve that, and I believe that technology holds the key to do that, to create decentralized communities where we can solve our own problems. We don't need a government and don't need large organizations anymore. And we are now entering that domain because AI is spreading information all over the world. Knowledge becomes a commodity. Everyone can build a building, can grow food. Doesn't matter where you are. AI can help you to do that. And I believe that we are at a very, very critical tipping point in time. And I'm very perhaps anxious also about it if we are not going to make it, because the technology becomes so powerful that it also has a very destructive power. So if we don't use it well, this will be our last invention, especially AI. So I'm very optimistic, but also very anxious about the downside of it, and not for technology itself, but more the intention of the people that use the technology. And but yeah, so we have to do the good work and inspire people to use it like biology was used. I think that's a very important thing. And you told me about the heartbeat. A couple of years ago, I was thinking about making a movie called Syncytium. And Syncytium is the process. I have to explain that a little bit further. It's biology. When a woman gets pregnant, and in the womb, the first cells start to divide. You get a group of cells which is almost unstructured. There's a structure, but it's like a big ball. And at a certain time, these cells start to create the heart. And the heart is the first organ that is being created. And at a certain point in time, that heart starts to beat. And that's the beginning of life within that creature. And I believe that we are at a certain point also on the humanity level. So we are a big ball of cells. And a couple of people start to group and they start to create the heart of humanity, where the feelings and emotions are. Because AI is only mind, is only cognitive. But we need a heartbeat. Humanity needs a heartbeat. And I think that what we are doing here, for example, is already a big step in that direction, to create awareness, consciousness around creating that heart consciousness in society, and start to use technology to spread that to other people. And the movie that I have in idea is in my mind is that you show people what happens if those heart cells don't start to beat, because all the cells start to rot and the process dies. So it's very important that heartbeat starts to that comes alive, that there's inspiration, spirit into the cells, and it starts to create itself into something living, to a creature.
And what do you believe will change when we start to beat like that one heart? How do we live differently? How will we create differently? What changes?
Well, I believe that AI is a cognitive technology. And I believe that AI will push us out of our minds back in our body. So we move from a mind-based society back to a heart-based society. And if we are able to do that, then people start to live from their heart. They don't do things for profit or for efficiency anymore. They do things for purpose. Start to use technology for purpose. Start to build platforms with a purpose. And I think we are on that tipping point. And the change that we will see is more purpose-driven movements, purpose-driven products, purpose-driven technologies. So things created from the heart and not from the head. Because the entire society that we have right now is created from the head. It's from the mind, which is all about efficiency, having not enough, more money, more profit. And if we start to switch that to more a heart-based society, sure, we can use our head, but it's just a tool. It's not leading. Then we will see a huge shift, I think, in society.
And how does it work? Is it more a bottom-up process in society, or is it also at the top level, or let's say the people in power who will make that shift at the same time? What is your perspective?
Well, my company helped a lot of large organizations to make a transition, and I think it's impossible because the people on top want to restructure it from their perspective, from a top-down perspective. So they want to create an even more hierarchical society, and that's what's happening right now. If you look what governments are doing, they want to create a central bank worldwide, a central government, a central healthcare system. And I think all the problems that we have today are a result, a symptom of that centralized thinking, of that hierarchy. So I think the only way is to create something bottom up, created by purpose-driven communities, and in a way that is unstoppable, like Bitcoin. So you create a technology that replicates itself, and then you don't need structures like hierarchies to maintain it. And I think that's a project where I'm working on currently. It's called Symbiosis, and it's like a swarm organization for humanity. So nature doesn't work with hierarchies. Only we see this with wolves, with an alpha wolf on the rock, or with an ape on the rock. But until 30, 40 units, then nature switches towards fluid organizations, which are called swarms. And we think that AI might be the Kickstarter to create swarm organizations for humans. And what this means is that imagine you're installing an app, for example, you have a dialogue with AI, which is asking all kinds of things about you. What is your purpose? Why are you here? Who are you? These kind of questions. What are your skills? What are your values, your talents? And then the algorithm starts to look people which are complementary to your skills, but have the same purpose. So you're aligned on a purpose level, but you have complementary skills and mindsets. And then it puts people around you. So you get a cell with you in the middle of the ecosystem and people around you. But the algorithm is doing it also for all the people around you. So everyone is going to be put in his own ecocenter. So you can walk your own path, but together supported by other people. And I truly believe if we are able to build something like this, and it starts to spread exponentially fast, this is basically a new operating system for humanity, which is completely purpose-driven. So imagine you have an idea to create something, a company, a product. You enter the swarm, you say, okay, I'm passionate about this, I want to create this. And certainly, all kind of people all around the world that you have never seen, never met, start to, like a magnet, attracted to what you are doing. And you can do the things that you like, and other people are also doing that. And that's exactly how our body works. So our lung cells can create oxygen because all the other cells around it are enabling that cell to do so, to stay its purpose. And if you look at the hierarchies, there's always a dependency, there's always pressure, there's always fraud. All these things, it's not an excess, it's a property of a hierarchy. So if we want to change society, we have to change our organizational structures, because organizations, in my opinion, are the most powerful entities on earth right now.
The process of transformation when it comes to organization, governmental or organizations, be expect is going to be a gradual process in the upcoming years? Will there be disruptions or crisis needed to turn things down? How do you look at this?
Well, I believe that they will implode at a certain time. But until that time, we will see crisis upon crisis upon crisis. It's already happening if you watch the news. Monetary crisis, resource crisis, clean water, climatal society crisis. There's all those crises are stacking up, and the governments can't handle that anymore. And they're not structured, they're not capable, they're not intelligent enough to handle those crises. So I think in the end they will implode, and something bottom up will come up, which is taking over the governments as we know it. And sure, in the future we will have some kind of government, but it's not a top-down structure anymore. That people say you have to do this and that, and there's rules. Now it's more a bottom-up structure, where government is more in between the nodes. So just like Bitcoin, with Bitcoin you don't need a bank. In a transaction, the security and trust is guaranteed by technology, and I believe that governance and all these things can be created on a technology level, so that we can focus on the purpose, on the why. So I believe that the crisis that we are currently in will only increase. They will only get deeper, more global, and until a level that it cannot go any further. And then, just like we heard yesterday, you need contrast to, or pain. I think pain to become aware. So if you have pain in your stomach, you become conscious of your stomach, and you can change your eating behavior, for example, and then you heal. And we have to become conscious of the systems in this world that are not working and are working for the wrong purposes. And what they're doing right now is making that very clear. So that contrast is getting bigger every day. But it's not big enough, I think, because a lot of people start to act differently, but still the largest majority of the people are still going with the old flow, following the narrative that is there. But it's ending very soon.
The contrast that is created, or the narratives that are out there, which are sometimes maybe right and sometimes they're false, is that intentional? Are people intentional creating contrast or control, or is it unawareness?
I think both. Sure, there are people who want to put the world in a different direction, in the direction of in a structure that they have developed, which is again hierarchical, centralized. But it's also human behavior. People are greedy. People want more of the same, and that behavior shines through in organizations, how they are structured, and the output of those organizations are a result of the thinking of all the people in those organizations. So I think it's unconsciousness, it's unconscious behavior. It's also, each wave that I'm talking about is also corresponding with a layer in the Maslow pyramid. Abraham Maslow created the pyramid. They've discussed this pyramid, but what stands after a while is that there's a certain sequentiality in how we solve our problems. And each wave of technology solves a need that we have, and then we focus on the top of that, the need on top of that, and we automate it as well, and now we are pushed higher and higher. Well, the bottom part of the pyramid is about deficiency needs. So 80-90% of the organizations are all focused on deficiency needs right now. The top of the Maslow pyramid, which we are now entering, is about growth needs. It's about personal growth. The seventh layer is about finding your purpose and expressing that purpose. And the eighth layer, which is the first layer of the next on top of that, is about transcendence. And that's what I'm talking about, the swarm organization, that you transcend your personal ego and that you start to collaborate in something much bigger than yourself, just like the cells are part of the human body. And a few years ago, in 2027, 7 years ago, I had a vision about 2027, that then will be the tipping point when 1 billion people start to resonate, that heartbeat of humanity starts to beat, basically. And it made me on one end very happy. I think, wow, that's soon. But on the other hand, I saw the contrast that in the world that we are currently in and the step that we need to make. So I thought, well, there should happen something really bad to create some kind of coherence. That was what I saw in this our experience. It was a very intense experience. So yeah, on the long term, I'm very optimistic, very happy what's going to happen. But on the short term, we have to deal with a lot of shit, I think, on many levels. And it starts with the individual level.
I want to thank you for giving this inspiration.
You're welcome.
This conversation was just one of the extraordinary moments at the Awake Origins gathering of the tribe. A unique experience for conscious entrepreneurs, leaders and investors shaping the future. Do you see yourself as part of this transformative gathering in 2025? Join the waitlist now. Register via the link in the description.